We are reacting to the mystery of the Lochness monster, and it's about time we react to something about reptiles and mythological creatures. Let's just take a look into the Lochness monster. Basically, the Lochness monster is like a giant underwater sea reptile.
About 35 kilometers long, Loch Ness is the largest lake along the Great Glen, a geological fault line that bisects Scotland. Of course, it's also known for its infamous resident, the Loch Ness Monster. Nicknamed Nessie, the rumored creature is most often described with a small head on a long, sinuous neck, with a thick body, seal-like flippers, and a long tail. It almost looks prehistoric.
A lot of people tell this is fake news. It's actually like a rumor actually made by the people, the locals of that town, or like a lot of people also said there's actually photographs and sightings of these creatures, but let's just take a look into it.
Water-dwelling monsters have long been established in Scottish folklore. Scottish legends include such water beasts as giant flesh-eating waterfowl, the shape-shifting water horse, and the nine-eyed eel. But there are no folklore or literary records that make mention of any of these monsters exclusively inhabiting Loch Ness, until Nessie. Who doesn't want to believe that there is some yet undiscovered species that's been hiding away for all these years? Or better yet, a living dinosaur. Understanding the legend of the Loch Ness Monster requires looking into hundreds of years of lake reports, elaborate hoaxes, the life of a saint, and King Kong. I'm Dr. Emily Zarka, and this is Monster. Atmosphere for monsters. Created from long-gone glaciers, the lake is deep and murky, making it hard to see anything clearly. Fog and rain are common, further obscuring views of the lake. It's beautiful and mysterious. Maybe that's part of the reason why explanations of the creature vary dramatically over time. A lot of theories try to explain the Loch Ness Monster. A lot. Possible explanations include, better take a deep breath for this, swans, geological activity that shifts the water's surface, odd boat wakes, giant catfish, giant surgeonfish, some kind of giant mammal relative to seals, sharks, whales,
Swans, come on, bro, don't let me down.
a dinosaur, tunnels under the lake that lead to the sea, the supernatural or misplaced ancient marine animal. Nessie's most reported form is an aquatic creature with a long neck and flippers, though some eyewitnesses
Almost like a sea brachiosaurus dinosaur.
have said it resembled a sea serpent or a crocodile. But before we get into the eyewitness accounts and how many were ultimately disproved, we need to go back much further in history, to the 6th century CE and the rumored life of a saint. Saint Columba was an Irish monk who traveled as a missionary to Scotland in 563. Almost a century later, a biography written about his work in Scotland includes a story of Columba encountering a water beast at Loch Ness in 565. The tale says Columba encountered a group of locals burning the body of a man they said had been snatched and mauled by a water beast while swimming. Some people cite this encounter as the first Loch Ness Monster sighting, which would trace the legend back 1,400 years. Fast forward to 1817, and newspapers like the San Francisco Call and the Coventry Evening Telegraph printed stories about sea serpents, with multiple reports continuing year after year. The 19th century also saw the field of geology emerge, and as fossils resembling these
I want this conspiracy to be true so bad,
sightings turned up, so did speculation that sea serpents were real, sparking a debate that questioned how long dinosaurs lived and if they might still linger in the present day. In 1822, Loch Ness became part of the Caledonian Canal, a route that opened coast-to-coast travel and shipping. The canal expanded tourism dramatically, and with daily steamships
even if they found a giant reptile, they're not gonna make that shit public, 100%.
traffic, there was also a rise in reports of sea serpents and other strange creatures living in Loch Ness, solidifying this creature's place in Scottish folklore. These sightings likely informed later tales of the Loch Ness creature. Even back then, one common theory to explain these sightings was the survival of a prehistoric marine creature or its descendant. Interestingly, mentions of the plesiosaurus were included in science fiction of the 19th century as well, in stories like Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World. Both of these books are about the discovery of secret worlds on Earth, worlds where ancient life has been preserved. It's the same appeal that makes movies like Jurassic Park so
I believe in those books of antiquity more than books of mainstream science that actually lies about stuff. I believe in those antiquity books more than the mainstream science at this point.
popular even today. We want to hold on to the possibility that we could encounter living versions of the fossils we discover.
It's not possible.
Nessie didn't really get global attention until the 1930s, coinciding with the Great Depression. With morale low and reality so distressing, stories of the mysterious creature appealed to the desire for escapism many craved. One particular newspaper report grabbed the public's attention. 3 anglers fishing for trout in Loch Ness reported to the Northern Chronicle in 1930 that they heard terrible noise and saw the water oddly moving as something approached them in a wiggling motion that caused a wave to rock their boat. As far as witness accounts go, not too significant. But this is the first account that associated the creature with the word monster. The article read, "A wave 2.5 feet high caused by some unknown monster that presumably inhabits Loch Ness." 2 other newspapers would later retell the story using monster as well. Following this, reports of the creature continued to increase dramatically throughout the 30s. In 1933, reporter Alex Campbell wrote in the Inverness Courier about a creature spotted in Loch Ness. The story claimed John and Aldi Mackay, a well-known businessman, and his wife saw a creature rolling and plunging in the water. They said it resembled a whale and disappeared in a boiling mass of foam. Aldi Mackay described the creature as having 2 humps and a total body length of around 20 feet. The article stated Loch Ness has for generations been credited with being the home of a fearsome-looking monster. Campbell also retold the 3 angler story from 3 years prior with much more exaggerated and
Did she has a book of Nessie? Like, what the fuck?
quite frankly false detail. Neither account was taken very seriously by locals, including steamship captain John MacDonald. With over 50 years traveling in the loch, he said he had never seen anything strange, adding that what the couple had described was likely sporting salmon in a lively mood leaping out of the water. The first
Come on, bro. Like, salmon, bro. These explanations are getting ridiculous.
supposed photo of Nessie was taken by Hugh Gray in November of 1933. In his words, the photo showed an object that rose 2 or 3 feet above the surface of the water, and he considered it a sighting of the monster. Analysis of the photograph led people to argue that you could possibly see the rest of the creature underwater. While the photo was believed to be authentic, there was no way to clearly identify what was actually being pictured. But the photo added gas to the debate of whether or not something was lurking deep in the waters of Loch Ness. Scientific journals began publishing articles about its rumored existence. The first of these appeared in Nature, just a month after Gray's photo, which the article cites as recent evidence, also claiming that several observers have seen an eel-like monster with humps on its back, a creature with a small head and long neck attached to an enormous body, and others something that looked like an upturned boat. The report
Oh, that looks so cute. I want to pet it.
mentions that he spent half
By the way, where even is Loch Ness?
a day on the loch in July and saw nothing. Gotta love 1930s investigative journalism. Nevertheless, articles at the time continue to propose explanations for the sightings, which have been debated for decades. Let's add even more to the list of possible explanations. Large eel, grumpus, porpoise, whale shark, seal, otter, a sunfish, crocodile, plesiosaurus, a sea serpent from the Middle Ages, an unstable mass of drifting peat, or white whale or beluga. When the Secretary of State for Scotland was asked what was being done about the creature, the Secretary replied he was in contact with the Chief Constable of Inverness-shire, who already had 5 constables stationed around the loch, none of whom had seen the monster, emphasizing that the creature is guaranteed protection should it appear and be threatened. Again, that longing for wonder takes precedence.
If they actually found it, they probably would have killed it and, like, took that shit out from the water and they probably would have killed it, like, 100%.
No one wants the mysterious
You think they're gonna release that information to the public? When they have ever actually released anything that is like contradictory to our, naturalistic explanation, like when have they even ever fucking released any information regarding anything that's contradict our naturalistic science explanations? Any living creature out of our own animal kingdom, established animal kingdom.
creature to be killed. They want the possibility
And there were many mystical creatures throughout antiquity that had like a lot of substantial evidence, such as dragons. So a lot of evidence for dragons and a lot of historical sightings, historical information, and historians actually quoting about dragons' existence. Maybe these things actually are true, and
to see it alive for themselves. Saving Nessie becomes more important than trying to kill the monster for proof, which can't be said for other monsters like the Yeti or the Chupacabras. Yet the Loch Ness monster might not have solidified its place in history without the help of another giant beast, King Kong. The 1933 movie King Kong made the giant ape famous and introduced a massive long-neck water monster to the screen. The film opened in London on April 17th, just 2 weeks before Mackay's famous sighting. Part of the action on screen depicts a brontosaurus who attacks humans in the water before chasing one up a tree and crushing it in its jaws. Effectively, the movie reinforced the thesis that prehistoric animals could be secretly inhabiting the Earth, and Nessie was one of
no way, this was actual movies that were back then. This is crazy.
them. A few months later, on August 4th, 1933, another monster report appeared in the Inverness Courier. While driving along the shore of Loch Ness with his wife, a London man named George Spicer spotted in broad daylight the nearest approach to a dragon or prehistoric animal crossing the road. A sketch drawn from Spicer's description produced this image, which looks familiar. Because of George Spicer's report and King Kong, the plesiosaur hypothesis became the dominant theory of the 20th century. Finally, the creature had a recognizable face to its name. In early 1934, Nature published another article responding to the supposed evidence up to that point, claiming with little doubt the creature was in fact
Where's the infamous photo, of the Nessie?
a large gray seal. But every time a Loch Ness Monster theory is debunked, either another appears or someone makes an effort to re-establish doubt, making the waters murky again. In November 1933, British naval officer and author Rupert Gould, who wrote and published his book The Case for the Sea Serpent in 1930, went to Scotland to search for the creature. He heard of the eyewitness accounts around Loch Ness and immediately drew a connection between them and the other creatures he had researched. After months of gathering eyewitness reports, he concluded there was indeed something in the water, although he was unsure what exactly. He published his findings in The Loch Ness Monster and Others in 1934.
Yeah, this is the infamous photo.
Which was one of the first books dedicated to theories of the myth. It is now that we arrive at what you all probably think of as proof that the Loch Ness Monster exists, the surgeon's photograph. The photo was given to newspapers by British surgeon Colonel Robert Wilson and published April 21, 1934. The dark, wide body, thin, long neck, and small head seemed to come straight from the Jurassic era, and the legend was cemented.
A lot of people said this photo is actually fake and it's been debunked. But I would still like to believe it's actually real.
In history. Nessie went mainstream and began to pop up in campaigns for Scottish products, and was given both male and female names like Sandy and Archibald. Between the newspaper accounts, the book, the photographs, and the first Loch Ness movie, The Secret of the Loch, the myth of the Loch Ness Monster became so popular that Scotland's official travel association had to go on record denying they invented the stories to encourage tourism. But still, the legend grew. The Linnean Society of London convened to discuss the Loch Ness Monster in 1934, aiming to assess if the myth had any basis in truth. Many thought it was a seal or cetacean mammal of some kind. One scientist remained convinced it was an otter. They also believed it was hopeless.
An otter? Come on, bro. At least come with a whale or something.
To compare the creature to any Mesozoic reptile due to lack of fossil evidence. After this, Loch Ness fervor seemed to die down until a new photograph appeared in 1951. Forrest Silicon Stewart captured a three-humped version of the monster he said had been bobbing its head and neck up and down in the water. But it didn't take much time for him to admit the hoax. He soon admitted the image was really of three partially covered bales of hay he placed in the water. In 1957, Constance White's More Than a Legend proposed that the Loch Ness Monster isn't a singular creature, but multiple sightings of descendants of marine creatures that entered the loch after the last ice age. Trapped in the remains of a glacier, she proposed that the ancestors of Nessie adapted to the fresh water that over time turned the saltwater loch into a freshwater one. For 20 years, the legend of Nessie continued undisturbed, fascinating people and building lore around an unknown creature. Then in 1975, the validity of the famous surgeon's photograph was called into question. A man by the name of Ian Wetherill stepped forward and claimed that his father faked the famous photograph. Back in 1933, journalist and big game hunter Marmaduke Wetherill was employed by the Daily Mail to investigate the monster. He photographed what he claimed to be the Nessie footprints. Zoologists revealed the footprints were from a leg of a taxidermy hippopotamus. Ian claimed his father was so upset that the Nessie footprints weren't well received or believed, as an act of vengeance, he created the surgeon's photograph. He staged the photo using a toy submarine with a
Really, bro? Why would you tell on your dad? Why you snitch on him? We had a good conspiracy, now we switch on him. For this fucking snitch, bro.
Head made from wood putty, constructed by Ian himself and his stepbrother. He gave it to a fellow prankster who passed it along to his friend, Colonel Wilson, who gave it to the press. In 1990, Ian's stepbrother Christian Sperling confirmed the whole thing was fake. Still, some people held on to the hope that something strange was in Loch Ness. The debate to formally preserve Nessie's survival began to take shape, with believers arguing that the creature should be a part of the Conservation of Wild Creatures and Wild Plants Act of 1975. The act protected any animal whose survival is threatened, but only if the animal had a scientific and a common name. Scientists argue that despite no conclusive proof Nessie exists, two photographs taken in 1972 and 1975 left its existence up for debate, so they gave the creature a formal name. Part of the name adopts the name of the lake and combines it with the Greek word teras, which means marvel or wonder and is often associated with monsters. This part combines the Greek words for diamond and fin or wing, so the name roughly translates to Ness monster with diamond fin. Unsurprisingly, even with a proper scientific name, no conclusive evidence of any such creature emerged. In fact, theories disproving the legend became more advanced as technology evolved. In 2019, Professor Neil Gemmell, a New Zealand geneticist, led a project intended to catalog all the living species in Loch Ness using DNA analysis. None of the 500 million DNA sequences from 250 samples of Loch Ness water showed any evidence of plesiosaur or other Jurassic reptile DNA, and no catfish or sturgeon DNA, which also eliminated those theories. But he did find significant amounts of eel DNA, although Gemmell says that their data does not give any information about.
Yeah, that's bullshit. I would never buy an explanation like that from mainstream scientists. Like, how do you even fucking do that? He checked the DNA present in water, like, samples. Like, that just seems stupid to me. Like, people buy that shit. Like,
The size of the eels. He speculates there could be giant eels in the loch. However, locals insist eels are nothing new in the lake, meaning they can't be the cause of the sightings over the years. Some people also claim the giant eel theory is unfounded, since no side-to-side movement from the creature has ever been reported. More evidence piled up that the Jurassic or plesiosaur theory is untrue. No fossil evidence has been found, and multiple sonar scans of the lake showed no existence of any large aquatic creatures. Even so, on average, 10 unexplained creature sightings on Loch Ness are reported every year. I think we want to believe that even in the midst of so much scientific discovery,
even if they actually found one, they would never release that information to the public because they don't want mystical creatures to be like actual mainstream fact to actually contradict mainstream naturalistic animal kingdom. Like, they will never release that information to the public.
and advancement, that there is something unknown, something hidden in the world still. The fact that science hasn't ruled out the possibility entirely is what's exciting. Amateur researchers, monster hunters, and everyday people alike would love to be the first to prove Nessie is real. There's an element of wonder and excitement that comes from believing in the impossible. So eyewitness reports continue and stories of Nessie are shared, even as each one before it is debunked. The Loch Ness Monster isn't a monster that inspires fear. It inspires wonder. It's a legend, a series of stories told.
Yeah, I will never give up hope. I will never give up hope. I'll keep on believing in the myth or the conspiracy of the Loch Ness Monster. It is true, like, it has to be like someone else actually has some information about it or a photograph about it. Like, when do we get the next update on this conspiracy? Like, this is something I actually am invested in. See you guys. We'll be back soon.